Goeiedag! Good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And in the sick South African ANC government, there's very little left they can still plunder, but they're working at it. And what we're talking about here is land reform. And I always talk about black privilege, which is not the average black person. It's not John and Glozy who lives in KwaMashu or one of the little townships. This is the elite, the members of parliaments, their families, their friends, the well-connected. They're the only beneficiaries. Black privilege. Let me tell you what I'm talking about here when it comes to land reform. Currently, land reform beneficiaries gain access to land through the leasehold system introduced by the Proactive Land Acquisition Strategy, or PLAS, in 2006, and put into operation by the State Land Lease and Disposal Policy, SLLDP, of 2013, which was revived in 2019. Now, I apologize for all the acronyms, but, you can't point a stick at the acronyms that this government brings out. But land reform governance is weak, and there is a lack of transparency. Where have I heard that before? And accountability. Where have I heard that before? That's how the ANC govern. Indeed, research undertaken by the Institute for Poverty, Land and Agrarian Studies show that elite capture of public resources in land reform is on the rise. Why are we surprised, guys? Why are we surprised? Elite capture occurs when resource transferred for the benefit of the masses are usurped by a few, usually politically connected and or economically powerful groups at the expense of the less economically and or politically influential group. Let me show you a cartoon which kind of sums up what I'm talking about. The process unfolds at various points within the land reform process due to a number of factors. These include manipulative practices where different actors exploit policy ambiguities and institutional weaknesses, and implicit and explicit forms of corruption, nepotism, and rent-seeking practices. SLLDP policy broadly identifies those who are racially classified as African, colored, and Indians as the historically disadvantaged persons to be prioritized as beneficiaries. However, as it now stands, the category includes state bureaucrats and well-off beneficiaries with privileged access to material resources, knowledge, and information. And let me add to that, contacts. This is where the scam starts. For farm workers, labor tenants, the landless, marginalized women and youth, and smallholders, equitable access to land as required by Section 25(5) of the Constitution has been elusive. Over time, government has also placed greater emphasis on viable business plans, production targets, and profitability at the expense of social justice and equity imperatives. There is no willingness to subdivide large farms and accommodate smallholder farming within SLLDP. Instead, there is a bias towards large-scale commercial farming. Most of the farms included in the study were allocated to men, 81%, while only a few had women as beneficiaries, 19%. This is contrary to government's commitment to gender equality. Only 15% of the farms were allocated to the rural poor. Let me repeat that. Only 15% of the farms were allocated to the rural poor or farm worker beneficiaries. So these are people who traditionally live out on the farm, and they're only getting 15% of this handout. These are a priority category in policy and make up a significant proportion of the rural poor. Some 44% of the farms were allocated to well-off business people diversifying into farming. They already had access to their own capital resources outside of agriculture. At least 45% of beneficiaries have no valid leases. These farms have thus not actually been legally redistributed, in the sense that the property rights to them have not been transferred. The beneficiaries have no secure land rights or leases to confirm their occupation of the land. It was further found that state bureaucrats and the politically powerful often capture resources in land reform through soliciting bribes, fronting, the imposition of politically connected beneficiaries, and bailing out politically connected people. This is what is actually going on behind the scenes with expropriation without compensation. It's a complete scam. It's the black privilege, ANC, elite, who are scamming everybody, and I mean everybody. Agribusiness also engaged in farm flipping, the imposition of strategic partners and mentors, prioritizing high-value crops at the expense of multiple livelihoods, and failing to declare dividends. Some key recommendations are identified in the report. 1. Promulgate a new land reform law to ensure equitable access to the land. The focus should be on land rights, tenure security, and management of leases of land reform beneficiaries. 2. Revise the category historically disadvantaged groups. Well-off beneficiaries continue to benefit disproportionately from the SLLDP program on the basis that they are broadly part of historically disadvantaged groups. A more inclusive land redistribution program would need to include farm workers, labour tenants, and communal area farmers. Now, that's the kicker. These billionaire blacks are claiming to be historically disadvantaged groups, even though they are the huge beneficiaries of black privilege. This is the scam. It's all in the terminology, as I think you're starting to realize. 3. Ration the expenditure of public resources in land redistribution. The proposal in the presidential panel report to allocate 60% of the budget to smallholder producers and land poor households is a good solution. The remaining 40% of the land may be allocated to medium and large-scale commercial producers. 4. Promote gender equity. The inclusion of women is a prerequisite for equitable access to land as required by the Constitution. 5. Rethink the leasehold system in land redistribution and ensure security of tenure. The high levels of tenure insecurity amongst the land reform beneficiaries have undermined the success of the program in multiple ways. 6. Develop stringent monitoring and evaluation of land reform programs to enhance governance. 7. Reconfigure land reform institutions to ensure greater coordination between land reform and agriculture components. The efforts to integrate key components of land reform and agriculture under the newly created Ministry of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development are key to achieving policy coherence and coordination. And finally, strategic partners, agribusiness and mentors need to be monitored to ensure accountability in the use of recapitalization funds meant for production or post-settlement support. Mentors and strategic partners wield disproportionate power to control the farming enterprises, often pursuing their own interests. Commercial viability cannot be the only basis for measuring success in land redistribution. Policymakers and agricultural experts in land reform tend to emphasize the importance of productivity, especially increased production of marketed output. These measures of success are narrow and exclusive. There should be more emphasis on the role of land reform as a mechanism for social transformation by supporting household food security and multiple livelihoods amongst the poor. In conclusion, the skewed distribution of resources in land reform in favour of well-off groups has impeded the realisation of equitable access to land in South Africa. Moreover, evidence suggests that under current conditions and existing practices, expropriation without compensation would similarly benefit the well-off at the expense of the poor. It's a scam. And they're going to destroy the economy over a scam. That's how bloody greedy and they're vile. I mean, these ANC cadres, they're vile. They're just disgusting. They should all be behind bars, in prison. Lock them away for life. That would be the way to go. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe.